So, here we are again, talking Battlefield 6, or is it just Battlefield now? I'm not sure anymore. Anyway, another leak has come out from our favourite Mr. Leaker, Tom Henderson, the man himself, and this time it's come in the form of a blog post. Now, I'm sure some of you guys will have already seen videos up on YouTube about this, people commenting on this blog post and going over all the details, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but just to quickly run over here, he basically says that this year's Battlefield will simply be called Battlefield. He confirms that the next Battlefield installation will take place from about 10 years from now. The title is set in a modern, very near future, which, gives the developers a chance to be able to implement weapons and vehicles that are currently in military development today. So let's say, 10 to 15 years in the future. And he says, yes, expect military robots, Boston Dynamics, for example, drones, jets, helicopters, tanks, and that sort of thing. And I will link the full article, by the way, if you guys want to go and read this up for yourself. But what I really wanted to comment on here is this particular leak kind of has me thinking that this one is a little bit more credible than some of the others. Some of them sound quite far-fetched. You don't really know who the sources are. You don't really know if you can trust them. But there are some things that he says in this particular leak that really just stem with another leak video that I made months and months ago, before everybody started posting leaks about Battlefield 6. And this was based actually on a Reddit post that was written a year ago. And this was a guy who knew a couple of people who previously worked for DICE, quit the company, and basically told this guy everything they knew about the upcoming Battlefield game. Obviously, this guy could not really, show those sources, and we couldn't really get it confirmed if it was legit or not. But one of the things this guy said, who had these two sources, was that the game and the series would return to the modern setting, being set apparently in 2030, which makes sense, again about 10 to 15 years in the future, which is what Tom says, and it will feature a focus on near future, though realistic technology. This includes drones, robotics, AI, etc. Now that is a direct quote from this person here. Again, Tom says the exact same thing. It's going to be set around 10 to 15 years in the future, so we're going to be able to get technology that is sort of on the cusp of becoming real and usable in a warfare situation on a battlefield, but it hasn't actually happened yet. So when I read this, I automatically thought about that leak all that time ago when I made a video on that, and I was like, wait a minute, I've heard this before. He's not the first person to say this. And I think as soon as you have more than one source saying that this could be the case, that gives it straight away a lot more credibility than if it's just one random person out there on the internet. Now, Tom also made a couple of corrections to this blog post that you guys may not have heard about yet, but a lot of people started asking him on Twitter more details about the blog post, of course, over the course of today, the day when I'm actually recording this video, and he's actually corrected some of the information there. So he originally said the game will feature a revolutionary campaign compared to other previous installments, and the campaign will focus on you and your specialist unit, where you'll be able to choose which superpower you fight for, and this will basically be Russia or the USA. And you can then offer to recruit your specialist team and their skills throughout the campaign, which will be a valuable asset to both sides. Now, he makes this sound in the post like it's all about the campaign. However, he later commented on Twitter saying that the information given to him was interpreted as campaign information, but is actually the backstory of the game itself. So, as of yet, a campaign is not confirmed, and this could be stuff that's all to do with the multiplayer mode. And he says, I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong, but this makes me even more excited for multiplayer. And then he goes on here and says, so it would appear that your specialist units hired by the USA will go against another team of specialists hired by Russia. So that's how they will incorporate multiple superpowers and nations in multiplayer. So the way I'm understanding this is it's basically going to be USA versus Russia. You're going to have two main factions, but those factions are going to be able to hire specialists from some of the other superpowers around the world, and maybe that way we're going to end up with weapons and vehicles from nations other than Russia and the USA. So you will either be like Team Russia or Team USA, but you'll be able to also hire essentially weapons and vehicles and those sorts of assets from other countries that you've hired to fight for you. Maybe it's just going to be one absolutely massive superpower versus another. Now, something else that he kind of contradicted and corrected really today is that he says here, I can also confirm that it would appear that the reveal trailer for Battlefield will not feature any gameplay nor multiplayer, and will be somewhat similar to the beginning of the Battlefield 5 reveal trailer, which is something I'm sure we'll all be a little upset about. So he kind of made it sound like the trailer that is set to be revealed most likely in May is just going to be some sort of cinematic action and nothing actually from the game itself. However, once again on Twitter, he then went on to say that the reveal trailer is also 100% multiplayer, but it's shot cinematically, so there's no first-person action as you would be playing the game. Instead, they've used cinematic tools and they've captured it from third-person perspectives, as DICE are well known for doing with many of their trailers. So hopefully that is the case, and when we do finally get the reveal in May, we are going to get some actual gameplay. We're going to be able to spot vehicles and weapons and soldier skins and all that good stuff, and map locations. We're going to get some actual solid assets in the game that we can start to pick apart and see what we're going to be getting our hands on. He also mentioned in the blog post that multiplayer will feature bigger and better battles, and it's described as Battlefield 3 and 4 on steroids, which makes me happier than I can express. He also went on once again on Twitter and commented that he missed out a couple of details from this particular blog post, and he said here one of them is that Battlefield is a sequel to Battlefield 4. Now, I'm not really sure what he means by sequel. Is it just because Battlefield 4 was the last main modern Battlefield game and this one is also a modern game? Or is it more than that? Is it directly carrying on from Battlefield 4 in some way? Is it because it's USA versus Russia? I'm not entirely sure. I suppose at the end of Battlefield 3's lifespan, I probably would have described Battlefield 4 as a direct sequel to Battlefield 3, basically carrying on the same line in the franchise. Now, Tom ends his post here saying, I have attached some images of what we should expect when it comes to vehicles, gadgets and that sort of stuff. So first of all, here we have an Osprey helicopter, transport helicopter, and it's kind of funny that this is here because many months ago I made a video on what vehicles I would like to see in the next Battlefield game, some new different ones, and the Osprey was one of the ones that I would absolutely love to see. I think they can also have some guns mounted underneath this particular heli, so if that does indeed make it into the next game, I think that would be really cool. It's just an awesome looking helicopter as well, very iconic. I would love to see that. Next up, we have Doggo, the Boston Dynamics Doggo. I don't know what you guys want to call this. I don't know what can be mounted on there, but that certainly could be interesting if it's remote controlled in some way. Next up, we have what looks to me just like a regular LAV, so pretty standard there. We all know what those do. Here we have like some tiny little flying helicopter drone. I sincerely hope those aren't that size in the game because, I mean, the MAV is small enough as it is. Imagine trying to hit one of those things with your sniper rifle, right? Next we have an F-16, a jet. Always good to see jets. We definitely want some of those, right boys? This next one here kind of looks like the Juggernaut suit from Call of Duty. Honestly, I hope they don't really take any inspiration from Call of Duty the same way that COD did from Battlefield with incorporating vehicles into Warzone and whatnot. I hope Battlefield just sort of stay true to what they know. This one again looks like some sort of an unmanned vehicle that you could pilot around. And then here we have a unmanned drone launching a missile. I'm not really sure how any of these unmanned vehicles are going to work if we do end up with lots of things like drones and whatnot, how they're going to balance that. I mean, a lot of people find the UCAV to be pretty cheesy in Battlefield 4 and the SUAV, so if they add a lot more of those sort of unmanned vehicles that are just throwaway, you're not actually putting your soldier's life on the line, I think it could be very touch and go how those things are perceived by the community, but I guess in a couple of months' time we should know more about that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for today, guys. I'm sure there will be another interesting leak as we draw closer. I think as we get closer and closer to May, it's likely we will find out more and more information about the game, and it's going to be interesting to see the reveal trailer, to see which leaks were correct, which ones were incorrect, but in any case, you know, I like talking about this stuff, even if these things turn out to be wrong. I still think it's an interesting topic of discussion. It's nice to gauge what sorts of things the Battlefield community would like to see in the next upcoming game, what ideas they like and what they're not so keen on. So keep the comments coming, leave them down below as usual, let me know what you think about this. As I mentioned earlier on, I do think this one has a little bit more credibility just because of the continuity of this leak and another one that was made previously a year ago when it comes to the overall sort of setting and scope of the game, of it being modern, set around 20 to 30 years in the future from the present day, and having these futuristic kinds of drones, AI and vehicles and whatnot. Anyway guys, like I said, I'm leaving it here, so if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that already. I'm going to be covering Battlefield 6, or I'm going to have to stop calling it Battlefield 6, it's just called Battlefield apparently now. So I'm going to be covering Battlefield, guys, when it releases later on this year. So if you don't want to miss out on those vehicle guides and hopefully some cracking gameplay, hit that sub button up, leave me a rating down below on the video, that always helps me to know what kind of stuff you guys enjoy and want to see. Have a good day, and I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers.